start the hepatopathology or liver pathology today. So liver is the largest organ in the body, weighing 1400 to 600 gram in male and 1200 to 1400 grams in female. There are two main anatomical lobes, the right lobe and the left lobe. Right is about 6 times the size of the left lobe. It has a quadrate lobe and a caudate lobe, mostly on the inferior surface and posterior surface respectively. The right and left lobe are separated anteriorly by a fold of peritoneum known as falciform ligament. Inferiorly, this ligament continues as ligament teres, which we cannot see here, and posteriorly it will continue as ligamentum venosum. So this is the falciform ligament which we are seeing here. Now inferiorly, there will be porta hepatis in the region where the blood vessels, lymphatics and hepatic ducts from the hilum of the liver, and a firm smooth layer of connective tissue called as Glissen's capsule covers the liver entirely, and it is continuous with the connective tissue of the porta hepatis. So the blood supply is the venous supply is from the portal vein, okay, and this portal vein brings the blood from the intestines, spleens, and the arterial supply is from the hepatic artery, which arises from the celiac axis. And this dual supply provides sufficient protection to the liver against any infarction. So that is why we don't see infarction of the liver. Now coming to the histology, hepatic parenchyma is composed of numerous hexagonal lobules. Okay, so these lobules mostly are of diameter. So this entire thing is a lobule. So you can draw a So if you draw a hexagonal architecture like this, so this becomes a lobule kind of thing. Now each classical lobule has a central tributary from the hepatic vein at the periphery, okay, and at the periphery there are 4 to 5 portal tracts or triads. So this is one of the portal triad. So each portal triad will be having a bile duct, okay, these small are bile duct, then it will be having a hepatic artery and a portal vein. Okay, portal vein is usually compressed in nature. So this forms a portal triad, and the central tributary from the hepatic vein is called as central vein, right? So each lobule has a central tributary from hepatic vein, and at the periphery there will be 4 to 5 portal tracts or triads. Now there will be cords of hepatocytes. So these are nothing but the cords of hepatocytes running, okay, and the functioning lobule or liver acinus is described which has a portal triad at the center, and it is surrounded at the periphery by portions of several classical lobules. So this is a particular functional triad which I can show you, because here they will be I'm just showing a vague picture of the zones, okay. So this is mostly a classical lobule which has multiple portal triads here, okay, but functional triads means portal triad will be the center of the lobule. So now what happens is the blood supply to the liver flows from the portal triads to the central vein. So accordingly, the hepatic parenchyma of the liver lobule is divided into 3 zones. Okay, so you divide it into 3 zones, 1, 2, and this is the 3rd zone. Okay, so what is zone 1? Zone 1 is also known as periportal area. So this is the nearest zone, Okay, this is the nearest zone to the portal triad. So this zone is closest to the portal triad, and hence it is very prone to toxic injury. Okay, and then zone 2 is intermediate between zone 3 and zone 1. So zone 3 is also known as centrilobular area. Okay, so this is zone 3. So zone 3 is nearer to central vein. So if suppose there is any vascular obstruction or any stoppage of blood supply, then the hypoxic injury initially occurs in the zone 3. So this is the most prone area for hypoxic injury. So zone 1 is for toxic injury and zone 2 is for hypoxic injury. Now for the histology of the liver, if we continue and look into the microscopic picture more in detail, then hepatocytes are actually polygonal cells with round single nuclei and prominent nucleoli. Okay, I cannot show you a prominent nucleus here, but there's definitely a round single nucleus, and it has a granular eosinophilic cytoplasm. Now it has three surfaces. One of the surface faces the sinusoid and space of Deci. Second surface faces the canaliculi, and third surface faces the neighboring hepatocyte. So this is the bile canaliculi. Okay, so it begins with a bile canaliculi interposed between the adjacent hepatocytes. So it simply has a groove between the borders of hepatocytes. So this groove you are seeing now, this is the canaliculi, and it is covered by microvilli. So these canaliculi join at the periphery of the lobule to drain into terminal bile ducts. The blood containing sinusoid. So this is a sinusoid which is lined by endothelial cells, and it has blood as a component, and sinusoid are also lined by Kupffer cells. So in between the endothelial lining of the sinusoid and the hepatocyte is a space of Deci. This space of Deci will have a few scattered fat storing iotose cells. Okay, so this is the microscopic picture of the liver. So we'll start with liver failure. So liver failure is an uncommon condition in which rapid deterioration of liver function results in coagulopathy and alteration in the mental status or encephalopathy. Liver failure indicates that liver has sustained injury. Coming to the types of liver failure, there is fulminant hepatic failure, where encephalopathy starts within 8 weeks. Then non-fulminant hepatic failure means encephalopathy starts between 8 to 26 weeks. Acute liver failure is a rare condition characterized by abrupt onset of severe liver injury. It is the loss of liver function that occurs rapidly, that is, it occurs in days or weeks, usually in a person who has no prior history of any pre-existing liver disease. It is a medical emergency that requires hospitalization. Acute liver failure or acute hepatic failure is also called as fulminant hepatic failure. In developed countries, incidence is 10 cases per million people per year, and it accounts for 6% of all deaths due to liver disease. It is more common in women than in men, and more common in white people than in other races. The cause for acute liver failure can be viral hepatitis, drug-induced hepatotoxicity, toxin-related hepatotoxicity, vascular causes, and metabolic causes. Viral hepatitis may lead to hepatic failure. Hepatitis A and B account for most of the cases. So atypical causes of viral hepatitis and fulminant hepatic failure includes viruses like cytomegalovirus, herpes simplex virus, paramyxovirus, and Epstein-Barr virus. Coming to the second etiology, that is the drug-induced hepatotoxicity. Acetaminophen is the main drug of these type of hepatotoxicity. It is also known as paracetamol, which is very commonly used as an antipyretic and an NSAID, that is a non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug. So this may lead to liver failure as a result of intentional or accidental overdosage. Normally it is not hepatotoxic, but if taken in overdosage can lead to liver failure. Some kind of antibiotics, antidepressants, anesthetic agents, salicylates are also associated with hepatotoxicity. Some toxins like Amanita phalloides, mushroom toxin, cyanobacteria toxin, organic solvents like carbon tetrachloride, yellow phosphorus can also cause hepatotoxicity. So this is Amanita phalloides is a kind of mushroom from which a mushroom toxin is elicited, which can cause liver failure. So there are certain vascular causes which can also lead to liver failure, like hepatitis or shock, which will cause insufficient blood flow, Budd-Chiari syndrome, which can cause occlusion of the hepatic veins that drains the liver, portal vein thrombosis, which causes blockage or narrowing of the portal vein. The metabolic causes includes alpha-1 antitrypsin deficiency, fructose intolerance, that is deficiency of aldolase B, which results in inability to convert fructose 1-phosphate into dihydroacetone and glyceraldehyde. Galactosemia, that is in galactosemia there are different kinds, and one of the causes is the decreased liver enzyme which is responsible for the breakdown of galactose. If that is deficient, that will lead to galactosemia. Ray's syndrome, that is fatty liver in case of consumption of chloramphenicol, and encephalopathy also follows. Wilson's disease is because of copper accumulation in the liver. Then there are certain malignancies like primary liver tumor, which is hepatocellular carcinoma, and secondary tumor includes hepatic metastasis or breast cancer or lung cancer. So this is how the lobule and acinus is distributed. So a functional lobule, earlier I showed you a classical lobule. A functional lobule and a classical lobules are two different types. So a classical lobule will have a central vein in the center, and in the periphery you have at least 3 or maximum 6 portal triads will be there. Each portal triad will have a portal vein, a hepatic artery, and a bile duct. Then this classic lobule is divided into 3 zones. The zone nearest to the portal triad is the zone 1. Then the zone nearest to the central vein is the zone 3. So the hepatocytes ranging from the central vein to the portal triad, this zone, which I was showing, is called as the acinus. And from one portal triad to another portal triad with the central vein in the center is called as a lobule. What happens in acute liver failure? What is the morphology of liver failure? So anatomically and histologically, it is presenting as massive hepatic necrosis. So I'll be discussing about the patterns of necrosis in the liver. So in the liver failure, there will be massive hepatic necrosis. So necrosis means death of the cells. So mostly there will be outlines of the cells along with inflammation. Now the liver will become small and shrunken due to loss of parenchyma, and microscopically there are large zones of destruction surrounding, say, occasional islands of regenerating hepatocytes. Scar is mostly absent given the acute nature of the process. So this is how hepatocyte necrosis will occur. So you can see just the outlines. The nucleus has disappeared. So this is a past stained biopsy from a patient with acute hepatitis B. So you can see clusters of pigmented hepatocytes with eosinophilic cytoplasm indicate foci of hepatocyte undergoing necrosis. So this is a single cell necrosis of the hepatocytes. These are the normal hepatocytes. Hepatocyte apoptosis. So this is a apoptosis where this is a biopsy taken from a patient with lobular hepatitis due to chronic hepatitis C, which shows scattered apoptotic hepatocytes. So these apoptotic hepatocytes will have dense acidophilic cytoplasm or eosinophilic cytoplasm, and they will have a pycnotic nucleus. Now what happens in massive liver necrosis is the liver is small and bile stained, means it will be yellow to greenish in color on cut section and consistency will be soft. Hepatocellular necrosis mostly will represent areas of, you can say, there won't be any proper architecture. They will be just inflammatory cells along with necrotic debris. Necrotic debris means only the outlines of the cells will be left along with inflammation. So usually it will start in the central vein zone and portal triad will be left out because this is the zone 1 which is showing normal and this is zone 3. So any kind of hypoxic injury first starts with central vein, as I have told you. Chronic liver failure or cirrhosis. So this is how a cirrhotic liver will look like. You can always compare the normal appearing liver and the cirrhotic liver. So there will be mostly nodular liver, okay, with micronodular or macronodular pattern. So mostly micronodular means at least 2 mm size of nodules will be there. If it is more than that, then it is called as macronodular. So this is a nodular chronic liver. Cirrhosis, mostly cirrhosis is a condition which is, you can say, the end result of chronic liver failure. Morphology wise, how the liver will mostly look cirrhotic grossly, and there will be diffuse infiltration of the nodules. The entire liver can be transformed into regenerative parenchymal nodules surrounded by fibrous band. The nodular nature of the process is readily evident both grossly and microscopically. So there will be typical picture of cirrhosis where there will be nodules of regenerating liver parenchyma separated by fibrous tissue. So this is a fibrous tissue stained by special stain. So major consequences of portal hypertension in the setting of cirrhosis is shown in a male. So here there will be hepatic encephalopathy, malnutrition, skin spider angiomata, esophageal varices, splenomegaly, portal veins, portal vein and all will be affected, and there will be splenomegaly. Periumbilical caput medusae will occur. Then ascites can occur, hemorrhoids and testicular atrophy. So in examination, they can give you a question as a 50-year-old alcoholic male came with a chief complaint of drowsiness and hepatomegaly, splenomegaly along with ascites. He had all the features of portal varices, that is portal hypertension, like you can say caput medusae, and he had hematemesis, that maybe because of esophageal varices, and hematemesis and melena were there along with testicular atrophy. So what would be your diagnosis? It will be chronic liver failure, okay, or you can also say cirrhosis leading to liver failure. So liver pathology is basically all interrelated. So if cirrhosis is there, these symptoms might occur, or if portal hypertension is there, these symptoms might occur. So it is better to take a safe diagnosis, that is, and do an association with each other, like a cirrhosis with portal hypertension and liver failure can be a good diagnosis. If it was a female, then you can observe symptoms like oligomenorrhea, amenorrhea, and sterility as a result. The clinico-morphological picture of acute liver failure includes hepatic encephalopathy. This encompasses a spectrum of disturbances in consciousness ranging from subtle behavioral abnormalities to confusion and stupor to coma and death. Jaundice and icterus can also occur, which is yellowish discoloration of the skin and sclera respectively. Pain and tenderness in the upper right side of the stomach, nausea, vomiting, melena are also not uncommon. Coagulopathy. The liver is a source of a number of coagulation factors that decline in the face of liver failure, leading to easy bruising and bleeding. Paradoxically, disseminated intravascular coagulation also may occur due to the failure of the damaged liver to remove the activated coagulation factors. Along with that, you can also see ascites, which is accumulation of fluid in the peritoneum, ankle edema, which is accumulation of fluid in the legs, ankle, and feet. They'll be feeling of illness that is called as malaise, drowsiness, and muscle tremors. Bleeding is seen easily, that is, it is easy to bruise. Cerebral edema, coma, brain herniation can be neurological symptoms. Hypotension, tachycardia can also be seen. Hematemesis and melena are also very common. Diagnostic evaluation is done mostly by rigorous history collection along with physical examination, complete blood count, prothrombin time, SGOT and SGPT levels, serum bilirubin and serum ammonia level, ABG level, arterial blood gas evaluation, serum creatinine level, serum free copper, ceruloplasmin level. Normally, ceruloplasmin is 20 to 30 mg per deciliter. If not, it will lead to Wilson's disease. Blood culture is for patients with suspected infections. Virology or viral serology is for hepatitis cases like hepatitis A, virus, IgM, hepatitis B surface antigen. Autoimmune markers like ANA and anti-Smith or anti-smooth muscle antibody can rule out autoimmune hepatitis. These were the clinico-morphological picture. Coming to the liver cell necrosis. Now the question can be asked, patterns of liver cell injury or patterns of liver cell necrosis. So this is the answer for this. So all forms of injury to the liver, such as the microbiological, toxic, circulatory or traumatic, result in necrosis of the liver cells. The extent of involvement of hepatic lobules in the necrosis will vary. Accordingly, liver cell necrosis is divided into three types, which is diffuse, which is also called as submassive or massive necrosis. Then there is zonal necrosis, and then there is focal necrosis. Diffuse necrosis is also called as submassive to massive, and when there is extensive and diffuse necrosis of the liver involving all the cells in the groups of the lobules, it is termed as diffuse or submissive to massive necrosis. Diffuse, submassive to massive necrosis. So this is most commonly caused by viral hepatitis or drug toxicity. Zonal necrosis is the necrosis of hepatocytes in three different zones of hepatic lobule. Accordingly, it is of three types. Each type will affect respective zone is caused by different etiological. So first is centrilobular necrosis, which is the commonest type of hepatic necrosis in the zone 3, that is around the central vein. So centrilobular necrosis is a characteristic feature of ischemic injuries such as shock and cardiac failure, since zone 3 is farthest from blood supply. Besides, it also can occur in poisoning with chloroform, carbon tetrachloride and certain drugs. Mid-zonal necrosis is uncommon and involves zone 2 of the hepatic lobule. This pattern of necrosis is seen in yellow fever and viral hepatitis. In viral hepatitis, some of the necrosed hepatocytes of the mid-zone are transformed into acidophilic rounded councilman bodies. So the apoptotic bodies look like councilman bodies. Periportal necrosis is seen in zone 1 involving the parenchyma closest to arterial and portal blood supply. Since zone 1 is most well perfused, it is most vulnerable to the effects of circulating hepatotoxin. Example, phosphorus poisoning and eclampsia. Focal necrosis. This form of necrosis involves small groups of hepatocytes irregularly distributed in the hepatic lobule. Focal necrosis is most often caused by microbiological infections. These include viral hepatitis, miliary tuberculosis, the typhoid fever, and various other forms of bacterial, viral, and fungal infection. Focal necrosis may also occur in drug-induced hepatitis. So liver failure may follow acute injury or chronic injury, or it may occur as a result of acute insult superimposed on otherwise well compensated chronic liver disease. Mnemonic for causes of acute liver failure are as follows. So you can remember the A to F, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. A is for acetaminophen, hepatitis A and autoimmune hepatitis. B is for hepatitis B. C is for cryptogenic hepatitis or hepatitis C. D is for drugs or toxins. E is for hepatitis E. F is for fatty liver. Potentially fatal sequelae of liver failure includes coagulopathy, encephalopathy, portal hypertension and ascites, and hepatorenal syndrome and portopulmonary hypertension. Thank you.